On this 2015 through 2025 F150 with the 2.7 EcoBoost, P0353 points us toward the ignition coil C primary control side. In plain shop terms, the PCM may be seeing a problem in the coil primary circuit, and the truck may run rough, misfire, lose power, or turn the check engine light on. The broad fault areas can include the coil power feed, ground, driver circuit, connector condition, the coil itself, or PCM control. If other ignition-related codes are present, check what they mean first, but keep this diagnosis focused on the suspect coil for P0353. Before getting deep into testing, pull on the suspect coil connector and make sure it is fully seated. If it is loose, reconnect it until it clicks. Do not disconnect any coil-on plug unit while the engine is running because that can damage the coil or the PCM. Also, base ignition timing is not adjustable on this system, so do not chase timing readings here. For P0353, remember that this code is about the primary side. When it sets, the PCM shuts down the injector for the associated cylinder to protect the catalyst, so do not diagnose that injector while this code is active. Also, do not condemn the PCM until the coil driver functionality has been verified. Next is the suspect coil driver functionality check. Turn the ignition off, disconnect the suspect coil assembly connector, and remove the fuel pump fuse to disable the fuel pump. Connect a deluxe NOID light and signal test light set ASD 7898 or an equivalent tool between the COP and VPWR circuits in the suspect coil harness side connector. Watch the NOID light while cranking the engine. If the NOID light blinks consistently, move into the coil functionality check. If it does not blink consistently, go to the circuit check starting with VPWR. With the ignition off, inspect the suspect coil before condemning it. Look closely at the coil case and boot for carbon tracking, cracks, torn boots, or boots that are not installed correctly. Remove the suspect coil-on plug from the spark plug. Connect an adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent, and reconnect the suspect coil assembly connector. Set the gap on the adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent to 40 kV, then crank the engine 3 times. After that, set the gap on the adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent to 25-28 kV. Watch the spark tester and crank the engine. A correctly operating ignition system only requires spark when the spark gap is set to the 25-28 kV range. If spark is present at that range, do not guess at a coil replacement from this check alone. If spark is not present, install a new coil and, if necessary, a new spark plug. Then clear the PCM codes and repeat the self-test. If the concern or code is still present, continue to the PCM connector and operation check. Now start the circuit checks at the suspect coil. With the ignition off, disconnect the suspect coil assembly connector. Then turn the ignition on and check VPWR at C1993 pin 3 for this P0353 path. Use a 12-volt non-powered test lamp to verify vehicle power, VPWR, voltage at the ignition coil harness connector. The measured voltage needs to be greater than 10.5 V. If it is not, repair the open circuit, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If VPWR is good, move to the ground side. With the ignition off, check the suspect coil ground circuit for an open. On this P0353 path, measure resistance at C1993 pin 2. The resistance needs to be less than 5 ohms. If it is not, repair the open circuit, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If the ground checks good, keep going into the driver circuit. Next, check the coil driver circuit for an open. Turn the ignition off, disconnect the PCM connector, and keep the suspect coil connector disconnected. Measure resistance from C1232E pin 40 at the PCM to C1993 pin 1 at the coil connector. The resistance needs to be less than 5 ohms. If it is not, repair the open circuit, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If continuity is good, check the driver for unwanted voltage. For the short-to-voltage check, turn the ignition on and measure voltage at C1993 pin 1. Any voltage present on that driver circuit is a failed result. If voltage is present, repair the short circuit, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If no voltage is present, move to the short-to-ground check. Turn the ignition off and measure resistance at C1993 pin 1 for the short-to-ground check. The resistance needs to be greater than 10,000 ohms. If it is not, repair the short circuit, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If the concern or code is still present after that repair, continue to the coil damage check. If the resistance is greater than 10,000 ohms, go straight to that coil damage check. Reconnect the PCM connector and test the suspect coil with an adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent. Set the gap on the adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent to 40 kV, then crank the engine 3 times. Next, set the gap on the adjustable ignition spark tester THX 458 or equivalent to 25-28 kV. Monitor the tester and crank the engine. Again, a correctly operating ignition system only requires spark in the 25-28 kV range. If spark is present at that range, install a new spark plug if necessary, then clear the PCM codes and repeat the self-test. If spark is not present, install a new coil, clear the PCM codes, and repeat the self-test. If the concern or code is still present, move to the PCM connector and operation check. For the PCM operation check, disconnect all PCM connectors and inspect for pushed-out pins and corrosion. Reconnect all PCM connectors and make sure they seat correctly. Then verify whether the concern is still present. If it is still present, the diagnostic path supports installing a new powertrain control module. If the concern is gone, the system is operating correctly at this time, and the issue may have been caused by a loose or corroded connector. Keep verification separate from testing. After any open circuit repair, short circuit repair, coil replacement, spark plug replacement if needed, or PCM replacement, clear the PCM codes and repeat the self-test. The takeaway is simple. Prove power, ground, and the driver circuit before condemning the coil or PCM, and do not chase the injector shutdown as a separate fault while P0353 is active. For more diagnostic training, visit stepdiagnostics.com.